post.
There you go. Thank you so much. So Kelly's going to be awesome and record this. I am standing in. Estella asked me to stand in today. We've had a few people dealing with human things, so I am dealing in. We don't have anyone commenting, but does anyone have anything they would love to share on this? I don't know what your weather is like. Some people it's hot, some people it's not so hot.
I would like to share an update on the news redesign.
The floor is all yours for as long as you want it, I think, today. There you go. The only context I would say is ask if you want feedback, and we will give you the feedback when you want it.
Okay, awesome. Let me share my screen. And I should have posted the link in the chat before I shared my screen. But here is the post that I wrote for the Make WordPress blog in case anyone hasn't seen it. And this is basically just to show some progress and the status of where this is currently. I would say that pretty much every page that's going to be in the blog has been thought out of, and the styles, typefaces, alignments, and spacings have been also are at a good place, as well as the direction. So the main influence is the jazzy language and the playfulness of jazz and expression and the timelessness of jazz. And that is being developed in the pages, and trying to see how that language can fit in all of these pages. So without it being too overwhelming or too much. There are some pages that are still too much and that have to be rethought. Like an example is this page, which works pretty well with few elements, but we also have to think how it works when there are other like many elements, and even if the colors are right. So it's these sort of details that have to be thought at this point. But the layouts have pretty much been defined. So like the structure and placements, I could say that's going pretty well. Then also posts, pages, and all types of content. That is also, like, I tried long posts, short posts, very different content like videos, galleries, even how videos with white backgrounds would fit in pages, code blocks. Trying to show it smoothly so that you don't have your eyes all over the place. Quotes, which is also, there are many ways to display the quotes, but I think it really depends on the context. So there are these types which are more expressive and these which are more informative. Image compare block. And then there's like the option of being full width aligned, content width aligned. All of these like possibilities that just need to be thought out for the whole blog. Then we have the section of like and share, post navigation, and the footer, which is essentially the same footer that exists today, but with a visual revamp. So more adapted with this this visual aesthetic. Then here are the styles, like I mentioned. The more functional parts are what are being more challenging at the moment. So the first four, which is like and share, footer, navigation, and the subscribe, are not that hard to figure out. So they're working pretty well in the pages. But the, let's call it sub-navigation or the wayfinding of the blog is what's being a little bit more of a challenge. So this would be the feedback that I would love to hear if you have any. For of all kinds, this is a very initial idea. So even like terms as menu are not final at all. So it's just a term that I found would make sense here. So let's say we have the main navigation, like the global navigation of the blog, the WordPress.org site, not the blog, the WordPress.org site. But then we want to sort of find where we are inside a section. So we click news, we are in news, but then we want to not get lost, which is ideal. We thought that it could be a good way to have a sub-navigation system, an architecture, something like this. So global navigation is its own thing, independent. And then we would have the local navigation, which would take us to the most important parts or the most important content, or would have functional parts, maybe like this. And the idea would be to apply this system of sub-navigation to all pages of the site. And I was just testing this today. It's a very, very rough idea, but I was sort of seeing if it fitted or if it could fit in all of the others. At first, I wasn't focusing in how it would work for all the site, but this is probably one of those things that's worth thinking once and thinking well, instead of just focusing in one page and then would have to rethink it all over again. So let me know if this isn't clear, or if you have questions, or if you have ideas and feedback about this specific section.
For me, when you said it was a blog and then you kind of corrected yourself about it being a separate site, it is a separate site. For some people, this may be the only thing they experience. And I think that is totally cool. And I would embrace that with this. I think it should be beautiful for that. That's kind of why I think this contained navigation is good. But for some reason, the menu is not working for me. And in saying that, I have no better suggestion, which feels bad of me to just say that's wrong and something is better. But for example, although the contrast needs some work with the news and posts on the breadcrumbs, that's an obvious thing. Yeah, that one.
Yes, this is don't take this as
I know.
it is.
That's cool. I knew that would be, I'm not kind of picking because I knew that would be checked. But that makes a lot of sense to me, and the filters makes a lot of sense. And then the menu, it just feels like other. It feels like someone's like got a mobile thing here, and it just doesn't belong. And I think it's because
when you say the menu, you say this term right here, right?
Yeah, that two ones. One, I think it's too far. It's like over here, and two, it makes it feel like I'm suddenly in a mobile experience, and those are the only things that come to mind. But it just feels is the best way I can phrase that. That's not super helpful. I hope someone else is a bit more helpful, apart from saying it's other to you, because that's not super helpful to you.
No, thanks for the feedback. Like the term is definitely, it's definitely like misleading. So that makes a lot of sense.
I would sorry, I just had a second thought. Do people need that? Like if I have breadcrumbs and I have filters, do I even need that? Am I going to use it?
You might not need it for news, but
Okay.
eventually for the rest of the site, it could be useful. And the idea here is not to just focus on this page, but in all of them, and how, because we already have this in the site currently. It's just these sections. So that I see it as working as somewhat like this. So like the sub navigation. And
so in this case, I think that obvious is always going to win out, and it's not as easy to like notice the menu toggle there, and B, like kind of parse what that means. Like you kind of need to know what's in the section before you really understand what opening the menu will do.
yeah.
So the idea would be a sub menu. Like this menu would be different per section.
Yes. So for instance, for news, it could have these elements. For Openverse, these. For themes, the ones that themes need. So like, and keep that info right up at the top of each page so that it would be clearer.
Is it more rather than menu then?
Excuse me, what did I say?
Is it more rather than menu, right? Because you're basically using it like a drawer. You're using it as you're not using it as a menu because you're exposed. I think this is my disconnect. You're exposing all the other menus and it's only one menu type you're hiding under menu. So that's where like my brain's like, why are not all the menus under menu? So to me, it's a more to that menu, right? Like it's a sub navigation is what you're doing there.
Right.
And to me, it makes sense to replicate and to use this local navigation as a pattern across all the sites. But my only concern with Openverse is that, well, the data diagram is showing 3 static or informative pages, which makes sense for the Openverse as a tool. But then I wonder how can work once the user is searching for something, because Openverse as a tool allows to download, eventually to create a collection. So it is more similar to Gutenberg, so to speak, in terms of having a tool where you are doing different things rather than having informative pages where you need to easily dive in or see that page. So I'm not giving a proper answer. I'm just saying that it makes sense until that point, until for Openverse at least, to have to apply that consistency across those Openverse pages. I wonder. I'm just thinking aloud that for themes, for instance, I envision some way of putting categories or ways to explore, to navigate themes, following this same structure, but using a different style, just minor tweaks and minor differences. So the structure could be the same, but maybe in some cases you don't need to hide elements because you don't have many items to hide. So if the menu hides 3 elements, it makes more sense to display those 3 elements and to make it more accessible and easy to catch and to click on. But same with Openverse, but news is a different story because you have more categories, you might have more elements within it. So it is like using that area. I completely agree with you that top align makes sense, but maybe in some cases we should display the items and others hide. Yeah.
I see. So Yeah, that makes sense. And especially for OpenVerse, which is like a different, like its own project. So having this compact design here may not be the best thing or the thing that we want for it.
I like the idea. I'm thinking of how to put the mark, because for OpenVerse we have this symbol icon that we will use in blog. We will use eventually in the browser extension, some plugins. So the idea is to go to OpenVerse from different touch points, not just the site itself. And then we have the bar, the search bar, that once if you change the query, you search for something different, the search result changes. And also you should be able to change the content type. So from photos to audio to video, text, and so on and so on. So I'm thinking of those interactions that it is possible to follow the same structure that you are showing here. Just I'm curious of how those elements can be visible.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, this is a very rough idea, because after trying other ways of getting this system of categories or filtering to work, it seemed like it wasn't intuitive enough, or it was too confusing. And I was just thinking of another way of that could work with the entire site, not just news. But thanks for the feedback. Was good. I'll make sure that menu is not a part of it. and also consider the placement of this thing right here. But this was pretty much what I had to show today, and thank you all.
I have one thing, is that I was looking at the categories for the news, and I was wondering if you have thought about consolidating some of the items, because I was looking, we have development and releases, which makes sense to be together, and community events and the month in WordPress, that I think those could be into just one category.
Yeah.
Because even if you solve the problem with the menu, I think there are a lot of items there, like too many items, like 7 or 9.
I was just searching for all of the categories. Yeah, so currently the categories are these. And so the one you were pointing out is already like smaller, so like more succinct. So for instance, WordCamp is related to events. So we omit WordCamp, and community and interviews is always, and newsletter as well, is always related and in the posts. So that could be just people or just community.
Yeah.
So is that what you're referring to?
Yes. So I think that would be great for, in general, to reduce the noise, and also maybe at the end, I don't know if it's possible to have just 4 categories, main categories, that then we can put in the navigation. I actually like the idea of having those items at the right, not the menu, but the other links that you saw in the OpenVerse. For me, that works.
These ones right here.
Yeah, and if we could have like 4, maybe 5, that could be.
You have to be very careful though, because a month in WordPress isn't an event. So we have to be very careful that some of these things are things. So merging these things together just to kind of fit in an interface, it kind of is like nice and tidy, but we've got to be a bit kind of careful. Unfortunately,
there's
like
also a lot of politics to deal with. So like,
yeah,
while like
Okay.
we might want to reorganize the IA, there's only so much we can do right now without like redesigning all of WordPress.org.
Oh,
and it's not us that are using it. I think we have to also remember that other people are using this. So other people have a certain flow that they are using, so they're adding certain things to certain posts. So I think it's something to consider. Having a good hygiene.
Sorry, is translation. Thinking specifically like a language like German ends up being super long. So like
Sure.
what we think might fit well horizontally in English might break for other languages.
Mhm.
But definitely not showing having a tidy up of uncategorized sounds like a great hygiene practice that we could do. That sounds like an awesome thing. And I'm sure there's a number of uncategorized posts just floating around the ecosphere. This is really exciting. Thank you for sharing. Has anyone else got any more input in this?
Possibly something like very basic, like what about drop downs? Are those not cool anymore?
Yeah.
Like how to like very quickly. I was thinking about, I'm like old, yeah, sure. And like what I always go to I don't follow like the make design. I just like go to it manually every time I want to see it. And there's like a few clicks to get there to like our own blog. How to get there. Okay, Mel, thank you. I'm not the only one who does this. But yeah, how do we make it easier to access like nested areas of the site without like several clicks?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understood what you
drop down, like
asking.
when you hover, like instead of just like another option for instead of like a second tier to access the subnav, can you like utilize a drop down over like the main menus? Like, are those cool anymore in web design?
You mean here in
yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's.
I just think of like I go to design. What do I go to? Make.
That is
get involved. I go to,
useful.
and then I go to design, and then I click on our blog or make P2, and I'm like, why am I doing this? It's like very hidden. And I wonder how many other areas are like that.
What screen resolution is that? Because speaking of German, what's going to happen with that translated that you just showed? There's a lot of words on that bar you just showed.
I don't understand German, but I can try and look into that and try to.
Because that's one thing I'm just concerned about is how many links we have up top. Drop down, hiding, whatever. I just think that's going to wrap without many different languages are going to wrap that, and we instantly just break. So I think exposing that many links up top, we have to do something about that.
I agree.
We always use German as the example here. There's probably other languages we could use as the example here rather than picking on poor German.
Right. Let me take
yeah, internationalization is a huge challenge since is the content translated in some language or just the actions and labels translated? Yeah.
Something that won't be shared in the video. Mel is sharing some amazing translation links. I'm just going to surface that.
Well, I know we are not discussing the actions on the main menu, but having two searches still keeps me thinking of how to resolve that. To solve not the icon itself, but the search result. How to show that, oh, when you're searching on the black area, you're not searching with an open verse, or maybe yes, I don't know, and how that search result looks like. Same for learn themes, patterns, and so on. So that having two searches at the same time, it might confuse. but we can solve it, or we can have a transitional solution on the search result, like having tabs, I don't know, or put some disable tabs saying this, you're not searching in this area.
I don't think it's only you are confused by that. I think a lot of people are confused by that. So I think it's just part of it. So anything that can be done to make that less confusing, I think is good. That feels like a bigger project though, but a worthwhile one.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems running into here is it's like to make an apple pie, you must first create the universe. Like to redesign a section of WordPress.org, you must first rethink an architecture all of WordPress.org.
Yeah,
Yes.
agree. But is it possible that this evolved into that, like to start?
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I feel like this would be a really fantastic start.
Okay.
There will be a tipping point, right? Eventually, there's going to be either so much friction or so many new things that everything has to change. So there's a tipping point.
Right. That's why I created, where is it? Where did I put it? I had, God, it's here. I had this, which is like the bridge between our current navbar, but just with a stylistic update. So that could perhaps be sort of a transitioning way of implementing the blog, the news. But yeah, eventually it will have to be a discussion about the whole website and not just a section. And that's challenging. It's challenging to be focusing in one page, but then the thinking has to be about the bigger picture.
Anybody else got any input on the challenge apart from nods? Because I'm more nods there. I personally think it's the furthest in a long time this redesign has gone, so I'm super excited to see it, and I can't wait to be able to go and see it live. I'm super excited, so yay! Ship it.
I am too. And thanks for the feedback, and can't wait to start having this be built.
That's like the thing, right? When it starts becoming real. So does anybody else have anything that they'd like to share? You don't have to, but it would be awesome if you do.
Maybe I can share now that we're speaking of transitions, I can share another transition.
The screen is all yours for as long as you want it. So,
so can you see my screen? Oops. So this is the how to say? Well, I'm currently working on the Openverse identity, but in the meantime, we need some first release and some a basic style, not a basic style, but something to show. And because the brand war is taking more than expected, and also the team needs something, I made this version called transitional style, because I basically update all styles, keeping the same content and the same features. So the current CC search, well, now we do have the Openverse within WordPress, but some elements are or some features are not working properly. But this version is basically a clean, white, non-disruptive identity. So it's very practical. It's very goal-oriented, so to speak. And I'm showing it because this is the first thing that we will do for the Openverse first release. So I took all the intern styles that Bea made for the news page, so to keep that consistency, and I made and update all these styles. So let me recreate the path from the beginning. So if when user goes to Openverse or wordpress.org/Openverse, user will see this, the main search bar, and then search something. We have the image tab as the default result for now, because audio and video are, we call it meta search. So it's not search within WordPress, but it opens a new tab depending on the source the user wants to see. Then we have on the left the filter, the licenses they use, source, and many other filters that I didn't put here because it's quite long. And then minor interaction as adding or selecting a filter, and it shows here this component. We have this feedback to say that these results are relevant and also having this safe browsing to show mature content. I'm not completely sure what mature stands for or how it works, but there is some algorithm working behind. And then we can find something. Also hiding the filter section to show the whole grid with results. And then the meta search looks like this. So Openverse does not yet support built-in video search, but you can, if you click on Vimeo, it basically opens a new tab with the Vimeo search result. And then the single result page. It shows the detail of this image, the title, the license information, and credit the creator. And then you can go to the image website to download and to use this this image. So linking this with what Bea showed, this page, for instance, makes sense to have to follow the same grid as news work, and basically we can, or I can replace this header with what Bea is working or I'm proposing. So as I said before, it doesn't interrupt the journey except for making the search and using the content. So this is, and if you have
I really like it. Feels like it belongs, which to me feels really like one of the objectives for what you were saying. It feels like it's of the same kind of family, which feels right to me.
It looks a little bit, it looks maybe too simple at first, but then if you think of the action of searching for something, it looks very practical. So that's why I think it's a product rather than reading a post or navigating categories where you have more styles and you have an identity behind this. But in this case, it's very, okay, I like that image, I want to use it, and that's it. Or I want to make a collection.
Are heavy as well, right? So you need it to be quite light, otherwise everything's going to get in the way of the images.
And the second release is audio integration. So we're going to put some play actions here in the search results. So basically users can play many audios, and from there jumping to the middle, go to the end, navigating through categories or tags, podcasts. So we might have 1 hour audio or just 3 minutes or 3 seconds audio for a sound effect. So it is a huge range.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We have 3 minutes 40. I completely did not check the timer when I said you have unlimited time. So that was so bad of me. Does anyone have any very quick feedback?
I'll just note that I liked the sources, being able to see where the sources are coming from, and like just that whole experience seems really smooth. And I do a lot of have a lot of history looking through different like image libraries, and that looks really awesome and really intuitive.
Thank you.
I really liked how it feels, like you said, too simple. But for instance, I see that top bar yellow as it could bring that pop of color, but the rest of it is just so practical that I think the images in there, which is like, or the content you're looking for, will just come alive, and essentially it's what you need from Openverse. It's to search and find easily and browse easily as well. So great work there.
Thank you.
At 2 minutes 26, I am going to say thank you, everybody. Always good to finish a meeting early. Thank you so much, Kelly, for recording this. Would you mind posting it if possible? Because me and my internet speeds are not